So, Dr. Dharma, one of the things I know you've done is done research on this one particular meditation called Kirtan Kriya. And it's actually one of my favorite ones. It's kind of my go-to meditation throughout my life because it's so balancing. When I have a hard time sleeping at night, I sit down and do this meditation. I have my kids do it. And it's very simple and very sweet. And I know you've done a lot of research on it. And I was listening to your audiobook, Meditation is Medicine. You actually talked about one of your clients who came in with I don't remember his name, but he had some dementia and some other balance issues. And he said his wife actually had to touch his fingers to his thumb.
Well, yeah, when you get that far, it's difficult. But I think what we should do is back up a little bit and talk about it, about the research that we've done on Kirtan Kriya.
Yeah.
So the amazing thing is, well, I should even go back further than that, is why do I even do this with Kirtan Kriya? I didn't make it up. One time, my wife and I, Kirti, my wife and I were at Yogi Bhajan's ranch here in Espanola. And we were sitting there, and as you know, he had that big white chair. And he used to run the world from that chair. Yeah. And so we were, and in my experience, I never knew how I got there. I never called up and said, can I come and see Sri Singsa? I was just there. And all of a sudden, before I knew it, I was sitting next to him, this close. And he sat up from the white chair and he did one of those things, And he basically wanted us to follow him into his private quarters there. So we went in and we talked a little bit. He gave us the chance to interview him, and the questions were like kind of basic and silly and stuff like that, but we were trying. But then he stopped us and he said, I'm teaching you this so you can share it with people as they age. And then he told us to study Kirtan Kriya. So that's why we actually treaded water for 10 years while the rest of the world until the rest of the world was ready for it. And then for the last 12 years, we've been studying this one particular meditation that, we call Kirtan Kriya. Kirtan, for those people who don't know, is singing. Kriya is an exercise that's complete in itself. So Kirtan Kriya is a singing exercise. Okay. And depending on how much you want to go into, the reality is that research on meditation, of course meditation is 5,000 years old, but the modern research started in 1949 when a Swiss researcher named Walter Hess made a discovery that found two spots in the brain, in the hypothalamus. One spot he stimulated electrically, he produced stress. The other spot he stimulated with electricity, he produced the opposite of stress. He won the Nobel Prize for this. Wow. That was about 1950, so about 25 years later, Dr. Herbert Benson, who I studied with at Harvard, coined the term the relaxation response. The relaxation response. The elicitation of the relaxation response. And he said you could do this in a number of different ways. Comfort, quiet, something to focus on, and then an attitude. And this attitude is when the thoughts come in your mind, you simply let them go and go back and focus or favor your tool, whatever you're using, breath, a word, a sound, a mantra, whatever it is. Now, Kirtan Kriya takes this to the next level. In addition to that, we see there's breath, there's posture, there's mantra or sound, there's a hand position, which I'll show you and which you know about, and then there's also a focus of concentration. So this is a very simple, but what we've seen in our research, it's a very complete technique that activates the whole brain. So, sa is the mantra you just sit up straight and you breathe normally, but then you do the mantra, sa, ta, na, ma. Each time you say the sounds, I'm going to put my hands up here, your hands go down on your knees, but you go sa, ta, na, ma. In America, in the West, we're pretty uptight. I mean, we talk like, hi, how are you? In India, they're a little more relaxed, they say, ki hale. They say, how are you? In Punjabi, they say, ki hale. They have a relaxed jaw. So I always tell people, before you do Kirtan Kriya, you should relax your jaw, so you can, your chiropractor, you massage your TM joints, or you do an old acting exercise, you stick out your tongue and you say your name, Hi, I'm Bob, I'm from Chicago. your name and where you're from.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Bob. I'm from Chicago. This relaxes your jaw. And then you can do it correctly where you go, you don't do sa, ta, na, ma, you do sa, ta, na, ma. So the sound sweeps through, and you imagine the sound sweeping in through the top of the head and out the forehead. So it's sa, ta, na, ma. So you do it like that. Our research, we do 2 minutes out loud, 2 minutes out loud. Sa, ta, na, ma. 2 minutes in a whisper. Sa, ta, na, ma. 4 minutes silently to yourself. You still touch your fingers and you imagine the sound. 2 minutes again in a whisper. Sa, ta, na, ma. And then finally 2 minutes out loud. Sa, ta, na, ma. Then you inhale, and you can raise your arms, I feel good just from doing that. So what we found in all this research and doing this is we started, like I said, about 2003 with this. We found the first thing we found is dramatic increase in blood flow to the brain. So if people go to the website where it's at, alzheimersprevention.org, you see pictures. And one of the first people we studied was, he wasn't that old. I mean, he was in his late 40s, and he had a lot of problems with memory, depression, and concentration. He couldn't get the job done, what he was doing. And his brain looked like a little shriveled up thing. And after doing Kirtan Kriya, his brain was all puffy.
You actually saw this like on an MRI or
SPECT
CT?
scan.
Okay.
Initially we did what's called the SPECT scan.
Okay.
And so we saw that. Wow. That was the first study we did. That was published in a medical journal. And we had a number of subjects, and what we saw was just a really big increase. And one of the most interesting things, to me anyway, was the increase in blood flow and activation in a specific area of the brain called the posterior cingulate gyrus. And why is it interesting? Well, because that's the first area that goes down in function when someone loses their memory.
Really?
So we see that activates, and so what I call my stretch hypothesis, because a lot of people would think it's a stretch, I don't, is that if everyone did this, or if a person did this every day for 12 minutes and activated the first spot in the brain that goes down in function, then no one would ever lose their memory, because you're activating the first spot that goes down.
Wow.
So that makes sense to me. Our other research has shown, then we started studying people with memory loss. We showed improvements in energy and blood flow to very important parts of the brain. We saw that people who meditated had better brains, bigger brains, and we actually saw reversal of memory loss. Then in our studies at UCLA, we showed improvements in genetic health, in cellular health, in something called telomeres. Telomeres are the cap of your DNA. When your telomeres get shortened by inflammation or age, you don't do well.
Yeah.
But when you increase the size of your telomere, then you have longevity and better health and a better memory. And we showed that Kirtan Kriya, just doing it 12 minutes a day for 8 weeks, increased the amount of this enzyme, telomerase, by 43%, which is the largest increase ever.
That is incredible.
It's groundbreaking. To quote the Nobel Prize winner Elizabeth Blackburn, assistant Elissa Epel, who looked at this, she said, "This is totally groundbreaking." 43% increase in your genetic and DNA health.
It changes your DNA.
Totally, yeah, changes the DNA.
Wow.
Well, I mean, if you want to go look at it from a very ancient perspective, the gurus said by chanting this mantra, you affect the nucleus of your being. They talked in these poetic terms. You affect the nucleus of your being.
Which is the DNA.
Yeah, what they're talking about is the nucleus of your being. What's that? Well, they meant all the way down to the cellular level. How they knew that, I don't know. They were tuned in. They called it the Amrit. Amrit is the nectar, the secretions that come from the pituitary gland in response to doing that. How did they know that? We don't know, but they knew. So we've seen that, and we've seen, as I said, reversal of actual memory loss, improvement in well-being. People have less anxiety, less depression, more energy. We studied caregivers of people with dementia, which are at very high risk for developing illness themselves. And we showed improvements in their health and well-being and also their telomeres. So Kirtan Kriya is an incredibly simple but powerful little technique, you know. And the other thing is, Yogi Bhajan one time was asked by a student, and the student said, "Sir, do people who meditate not get dementia?" And he said, "Not only don't they get dementia, they'll go into another dimension." And that's what we just talked about a little while ago, and what we've been studying is the concept of psychospiritual well-being, or what I call spiritual fitness. So as a person ages and they do this meditation, not only don't they lose their memory, but they gain so much more depth and richness and well-being in their life, you know, and have things like spiritual fitness. And I like to think of what George Harrison, the famous Beatle, said in the album, the iconic album, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, in the song Within You and Without You, which is a very spiritual song. He said, "When you look beyond yourself, you may find peace of mind is waiting there." So when you look beyond yourself to serve other people without thought of reward for yourself, which you can only do if you're in a heightened state of consciousness, you know, the rewards that you get are very awesome and dramatic. And what it leads to is peace of mind, which is sorely lacking in today's world. You know, the concept of peace of mind is foreign. The concept of universal love is foreign. We need to go back to the 60s, you know, something, I don't know what happened, but it didn't last. But maybe because it was drug-induced. But now, you know, we have Kirtan Kriya and meditation and yoga to produce these same effects, you know, that you're not tripping on acid, you're tripping on your own brain, and you see things differently. So that's the ultimate aspect of our research, that, you know, it definitely affects you on a physical level, on an emotional level, on a brain level, and on a spiritual level.
I just think this is amazing, actually. Such a simple meditation, like literally it's so simple. Some of our meditations we do are like this with breath of fire for 25 minutes or something. This one's so simple, and yet it has this huge impact on everything, down to literally your DNA structure. I just think it's just amazing, actually.
And you know what the best thing about it is, or one of the most saleable points to get Grandma or Aunt Betty from Omaha to do it? It only takes 12 minutes. You don't have to change your life. You don't have to spend thousands of dollars to go to a retreat. You don't have to spend 60 minutes a day doing it. You don't have to, what they call, sit. You can do it in bed, sitting up in bed. You don't have to be on your knees on a pillow facing the wall. You don't have to do a body scan. You don't have to follow your breath. You don't even have to pay any attention to it.
Yeah.
It's better if you pay attention to it, but you just have to do it. You know, you don't even have to do it well. I mean, we've taken novices who have never done any meditation before in their life, taught them this and said, okay, go do it. We didn't spend a lot of time teaching them on a video, and then following up the same day and say, okay, go do it.
Wow.
And they came back 8 weeks later, and then we did scans, we did brain scans and memory tests, and showed everything was improved.
And did they notice differences too in their own
Totally,
lives?
yeah. They noticed that their memory was better, they felt better, and they slept better. Some of the research we did at the University of West Virginia shows improved sleep. But the interesting thing is, had a high compliance rate, over 85%. People did it. And many of them, I remember getting a phone call from the person at the University of Pennsylvania who was the assistant to the director there. She called me up and said, well, some of these subjects are asking if they can still do it now that the study's over. Can they still do it? I said, yeah, they can still do it. Sure, tell them to do it. They can do it. Tell them to go home and keep doing it. They don't have to even worry about it. They should just keep doing it and enjoy it. So, you know, we've had very good success, and I just want to announce to you, because you don't know this, and to the audience, that we are now in the process of organizing a very large study on Kirtan Kriya, which will be a real game changer in the field of memory, where we study Kirtan Kriya at a number of different medical centers throughout the country, and hopefully show that it slows the progression of memory loss and prevents Alzheimer's disease. So that's our next study.
Do you need volunteers for that?
Why, you have memory loss?
Not me, but maybe some people out here.
Well, we're going to do it at various medical schools. I don't know if it'll be in New Mexico. We're working on that, but it'll definitely be at UCLA and West Virginia for sure, and we'll see maybe one center in Europe, don't know yet, and possibly the University of New Mexico, we're going to see.